Hey family, I'm Pastor Touré Roberts and welcome to BET's Daily Devotional. The thought that I want to share with you today is this: anxiety is never your friend. In the midst of this pandemic, really there are two pandemics going on right now. The one pandemic is obviously COVID-19, the coronavirus that many are suffering with and many have lost their lives, and my heart goes out to families and friends of those who have lost loved ones, and we are in prayer for you. But that second pandemic is a pandemic of fear and anxiety, and in many cases, it is just as deadly as the other. Did you know that you could die from anxiety? You can literally die from fear. I was thinking about it, and one doctor reported this, that one of the things that we need to keep our immune system strong to even combat the virus is a stress-free life. And so stress literally puts us in a position, makes us even more vulnerable to the virus than many of us already are. And so anxiety is never your friend. And there's a passage of scripture in Philippians 4 that says, "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, make your requests known unto God. And the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will keep your heart and your mind." Isn't it interesting? That scripture tells us that we are to never be anxiety. It says be anxious for no thing. In other words, there's never a moment in our life where God gives us permission or says that it's okay for us to be anxious. Why? Because He wants us to know, first of all, that He's with us. He says, "Fear not," Isaiah 41, "Fear not, for I am with you." Now, I'm not talking about not being safe. I'm not talking about not being wise and not being smart. That's not what I mean. I believe that there is a level of concern that we all ought to have that allows us to make the best decisions. But there's another type of fear, there's another type of anxiety that has torment in it. And that is when we literally receive the consequences of what we're afraid of. I said something recently, fear attracts the worst to a person's life, but faith attracts the best. And so we have to choose faith over fear. But that's something that we all know, but let's talk about practically. How do we work through fear or anxiety attacks when they come? The first thing you have to do is you have to acknowledge it. You don't have to pretend like you're tough or super spiritual. If fear comes upon you, anxiety comes upon you, acknowledge it, right? The second thing you have to do is you have to identify the thought that's creating that anxiety, that's creating that fear. Usually it will be a thought about something that could happen. It's not even a reality, but it's a possibility. And we can't give our energy to a negative possibility. So secondly, you identify the thought. The third thing you do is you find a promise that negates the negative thought. God said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. There are a number of promises in the scripture that we can hold on to. And so we have to replace that negative thought with a positive thought. And it's a positive thought based on God's promise. And the fourth thing we must do that I believe will alleviate anxiety, believe it or not, is pray. Cast all your cares before God. He cares for you. Anxiety is never your friend, and I want you to use these tips to beat it today. I'll see you next time.